Most people live their whole lives avoiding the cold, not just the cold outside, but the cold within, the kind that whispers, "You're not enough. You can't handle this. Stay safe, stay small." But I say, no more. One winter morning, I walked toward a frozen canal. I didn't think, I didn't plan. I stepped in. The shock was lightning, the breath ripped from my lungs, but underneath it, silence, peace, power. In that ice, I didn't find death. I found life, and that's what I'm here to tell you. The limits you feel are lies. The fear you carry is borrowed. You are born extraordinary, your body, your mind, your spirit all built for greatness. The cold is not your enemy. The cold is your mirror. And when you learn to breathe with it, you meet the real you, the strong you, the free you, the limitless you. So are you ready to go deeper than comfort? To meet the fire that lives inside the ice? Let's breathe. Let's awaken. Let's become the Iceman. Feel that breath. That is life entering. Most people forget it's there. They breathe shallow, live shallow, and wonder why they feel half alive. But not you. Not tonight. Because tonight we are going to wake something ancient inside you, something wild, pure, honest. It is the part of you that remembers the mountains, the snow, the fire, the power. The part that never needed permission to be extraordinary. I was a restless young man once. Amsterdam winter. The streets were gray, the canals frozen over, and my mind was louder than the city itself. Thinking, analyzing, searching. I had read the books, tried meditation, yoga, philosophy, but something was missing. I walked beside the canal that morning, and the ice looked like a mirror to another world. My friends would have said, "Wim, don't do it." But the voice inside whispered, "Go." I stepped in. The cold bit like fire. It screamed at every nerve, pulled the air out of my lungs. And yet beneath that chaos came silence, an enormous stillness, as if the cold itself was saying, "Welcome home." In that moment, the old version of me dissolved. The comfortable, distracted, half-alive version died in that water. People think the cold is an enemy, but the cold is the most honest teacher you will ever meet. It does not care about your status or your stories. It strips away everything that isn't real until only presence remains. In the ice, there is no past or future. There is only you, your breath, your heartbeat, your awareness. The cold does not punish. It purifies. It asks, "Who are you when the noise is gone?" When you answer that, you begin to discover freedom. Once you learn to master discomfort, you can master anything. The cold is merciless, but righteous. I like to say, it brings you directly to the depth of yourself. When I plunged into that canal, I didn't need science to tell me something changed. My body's intelligence switched on like 1,000 circuits lighting up. Later, scientists would measure it: adrenaline without stress, anti-inflammatory responses, control over the autonomic nervous system. But that day, I simply felt alive. We are built for this. Every cell remembers. We just forgot the language of nature. Guys, we built comfort everywhere. Heaters, screens, processed food, endless entertainment. In doing so, we turn down the dial on our own power. The cold turns it back up. The breath reconnects the wires. Suddenly you remember that you are not fragile, you are fierce. The breath, that's the bridge. Deep, conscious breathing, fully in and letting go, changes the chemistry of the blood in minutes. It floods the system with oxygen, alkalizes the body, clears the mind. People ask me, a whim, what is the secret? I tell them, breathe, my friend, fully. Feel it. Let life move through you. Let life move through you. With every inhale, you say yes to existence. With every exhale, you release fear. A feeling is understanding. You don't need theories, you need experience, and the breath gives it instantly. In the West, we divide mind and body, but that is illusion. They are one. When you guide the body through breath, you influence the mind. When you calm the mind, you strengthen the body. In the ice, I discovered that emotions are chemistry. Fear, anger, sadness, chemical storms that can be regulated. You learn to smile in the storm. That is real power, not the power of domination, but the power of harmony. When you master that, you stop merely surviving life and begin creating it. Fear itself is a story. Babies are not afraid of cold. They react, but they don't fear. Fear is learned through repetition. It's dangerous. It's too much. I can't handle it. The body knows better. In Poland, I have taken groups up mountains wearing only shorts. Snow everywhere. Temperatures 10 degrees below zero, wind like knives, and they didn't shiver. Why? Because they believed. Because they breathed. Once you confront the cold, you realize that fear is just unused potential. You stop saying, "I can't," and start asking, "What else can I do?" People talk about financial freedom, But the first form of wealth is energy. If you have energy, you can create anything: business, art, love, a better world. Without energy, money means nothing. Energy does not come from caffeine or comfort. It comes from oxygen, movement, purpose, and cold. When you master your inner economy, the outer one follows. Discipline and presence, the same tools that keep you calm in an ice bath, make you calm in the market, in negotiation, in crisis. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop chasing and start attracting. That is true freedom. Happiness, strength, and health are your birthright. Years after that first frozen plunge, I climbed Kilimanjaro with a group of people. Some were young, some old, some carrying medical diagnoses that doctors said should have stopped them. We wore shorts, no oxygen, no excuses. The professionals thought we were crazy. Yet we reached the summit in less than 2 days. How? Breath, focus, belief. One man cried at the top and said, "I never thought I could do this." I said, "You didn't think, you felt." And the body followed. Feeling first, thinking later, that is the secret. The cold shows you what is real. It strips away illusion until you see how little you need to be happy. Air, water, movement, love. When you sit in ice water, time disappears. You enter meditation so deep that you and nature become one. It's not mysticism, it's biology. You realize that everything you need is already inside you. The cold is not the enemy, it is your mirror. Every record I have set swimming under ice, running a marathon in the desert without water, standing half naked in freezing wind, is not about showing off. It is about showing possibility. If I can do it, anyone can. I am not superhuman. I am human who learned to listen deeper. Your limits are not real. They are opinions formed by comfort and fear. You are capable of 10 times more than you imagine. The ice only gives you evidence. The same principles that let you sit calmly in freezing water apply to wealth and life. Most people live paycheck to paycheck not because they lack opportunity, but because they are addicted to comfort. They fear risk, they fear the unknown, they fear the cold. But the rules are the same. Breathe. Stay calm when others panic. Focus, direct your energy where it matters. Discipline, show up every day. Adapt, embrace discomfort as training. Treat challenges like cold exposure and you will thrive where others freeze, because money, like nature, rewards courage. We live in a world that worships comfort, warm houses, soft chairs, constant distraction, but comfort makes the muscles weak and the mind sleepy. If you never test yourself, you never meet yourself, so step into your own version of cold. Maybe it's an ice bath, maybe it's the business you keep postponing, maybe it's the truth you haven't spoken. Beyond that moment of fear lies freedom. The limit is not the sky, the limit is the mind. So we begin simple, one breath at a time. Fully in, let go. Feel it. The cold will come, but it's not there to hurt you, it's there to wake you up. Each breath is a step out of the cage of limitation. Each second of discomfort is a doorway to strength. The power has always been there inside you, waiting. Once you taste that aliveness, you will never settle for half awake again. You will never fear the cold again. You will welcome it, because it reminds you who you are. This is not the end, it is the beginning. Once you awaken, you must learn to direct that power. Next, we will go deeper into the mechanics of mind, breath, and focus, how to turn stress into strength, fear into fuel, limitation into liberation. Are you ready to go deeper? Then breathe with me, fully in, let go, and let us dive together into the ice. Do you feel that rhythm, that pulse between the inhale and the exhale? That is life itself communicating with you. Most people rush past it their entire lives. They breathe, but they do not feel the breath. They live, but they do not live. Tonight, I want you to reclaim the control you were born with. The control of your mind, your emotions, your body, because when you master your breath, you master your chemistry, and when you master your chemistry, you master your world. When I began to play with the cold, I thought it was all about toughness. You know, being the crazy Dutchman who jumps into ice water. But soon I realized the secret was not in the ice, it was in the mind. The mind is like a wild horse, strong, powerful, but untrained. It throws you off at every fear, every doubt. The cold taught me to ride that horse, to guide it instead of being dragged by it. At first, the body screams, the skin tightens, the heart races, the lungs contract. Every cell shouts, "Get out, this is danger." But when you do not obey, when you stay, something magical happens. You realize the body is not the enemy. It's a loyal soldier following the orders of the mind. Change the orders and the army obeys. That's how you begin mastering the mind, through the body. People always ask a Wim, what is your training? How can we learn to do what you do? I tell them, start with breath, because breath is the steering wheel of the mind. Fully in, letting go. Fully in, letting go. 30, 40 breaths and suddenly you feel tingling in your fingers, light in your head. That's not madness, that's aliveness. You're charging the system, flooding it with oxygen, waking up the chemistry that modern life put to sleep. I didn't learn this from a guru. I learned it from nature. When I breathe deeply and hold the breath, I feel the boundary between thought and silence blur. In that space, control is simple. Scientists later told me I was changing my pH, releasing adrenaline at will, influencing the autonomic nervous system. But the science came after the experience. The body already knew. I just listened. Breath is free medicine. It changes anxiety to calm, fear to focus, fatigue to energy. The breath is the oldest teacher, the one that never left you. When you are angry, breathe. When you are lost, breathe. When you don't know what to do with your life, breathe. The answers come because you create space for them. You quiet the storm so the compass can work again. One day I was training in the mountains. Snow everywhere, silence so deep it hummed. I sat down shirtless in the snow and began to breathe. After 10 minutes, I no longer felt cold. I felt warmth rising from inside, a fire that had no flame. Later, scientists would call it brown fat activation, adrenaline response, mitochondrial adaptation. But to me, it felt like remembering. I realize we have a heater inside, a mechanism of survival and vitality, but we've switched it off with comfort. The breath turns it back on. In that moment, I laughed. I remember running a marathon north of the Arctic Circle in just shorts and sandals. No training for months, just breath and focus. The doctors warned me, you'll die of hypothermia. I smiled and said, I'm already warm. During the run, I didn't think of distance or pain. I breathed. I listened to my body. Every step was meditation. When I crossed the finish line, I felt no exhaustion, only gratitude. Gratitude that the body, when trusted, can do so much more than we imagine. You see, the goal is not to beat the cold. The goal is to beat doubt. To prove to yourself that the limits you feel are only habits of thought. When you go beyond them once, they crumble forever. This same discipline will change your financial life, your relationships, everything, because energy is universal. The way you breathe in an ice bath is the way you breathe when facing a deadline, a breakup, a challenge. If you can stay calm there, you can stay calm anywhere. That's the real training. I tell my students, you don't need gurus, you don't need years of study. You need practice. The breath is free, the cold is free, the mind is free when you let it be. Take advantage of these gifts. They cost nothing, but they give everything. When you breathe deeply, your body releases its own pharmacy. Adrenaline, dopamine, serotonin. You can create happiness without external substances. You can create focus without caffeine. You can create peace without running away. That's true wealth, inner control. People often say to me, Wim, you make it look easy. It is easy once you remember who you are. We complicate life with fear. The body wants simplicity. Breathe, move, eat natural, sleep, love. The rest is noise. I have seen skeptics become believers. I have watched people with autoimmune diseases regain strength. I have seen trauma melt away in a single session of breath and cold. Because when you bring oxygen, attention, and surrender to the body, heals. It always wanted to heal. It just needed you to listen. Once, a woman came to me grieving the loss of her husband. She said she felt numb, like life had turned to gray. I guided her through the breathing, the cold water. She cried, screamed, laughed, all in 10 minutes. Afterward, she said, I feel alive again. That's what happens when you reconnect with the elements. You reconnect with yourself. The mind is like ice. It can be frozen by trauma, by fear. But breath is the sun that melts it. The more you breathe consciously, the more you thaw. Eventually, you find a river flowing inside you again. That river is vitality. Every inhale is a reminder, I'm here. Every exhale, I let go. When you live like that, you are never trapped. Even in chaos, you are centered. Do this long enough and you will notice that your decisions, whether in business, love, or health, come from a calm, powerful intuition. You no longer chase, you respond, you become efficient, creative, generous. That's when life stops feeling like survival and starts feeling like art. And so the secret of mastering the mind is not in thinking harder. It's in breathing deeper. The breath is the original technology. It's older than civilization, more reliable than any machine. Use it and you will know yourself beyond words. I want you to leave here tonight and do something simple. Tomorrow morning, step into a cold shower. It will feel shocking for 5 seconds. Stay. Breathe. You will feel the mind panic, but the body adapt. In that adaptation lies freedom. When you come out, you will feel powerful, clear, alive. That clarity will follow you in every challenge. That is the gift of the cold and the breath. They give you back yourself. So breathe fully in, let go. Feel your heartbeat. That rhythm has been with you since before you were born. It will be with you until your last moment. In between those two breaths lies your entire life. Make it conscious. Make it alive. You are not a prisoner of circumstance. You are the master of choice. You can regulate your body, change your mind, influence your chemistry. You can live strong, happy, and free. That is not philosophy, it's biology, and it's yours. This is what it means to master the mind through breath and cold. Next, we will explore how to use this mastery to heal, to create, to expand your capacity in every direction, to go beyond fear, beyond pain, beyond what you once thought possible. Fully in, let go. The journey continues. When I tell people that I have run marathons in the desert without water or climbed the highest mountains in the world in shorts, they think I am mad. But madness is only what the world calls people who refuse to live in fear. What I discovered through the cold and the breath is not superhuman, it is human in its purest form. I am not different from you. I simply decided to go where most people never go, into discomfort, into silence, into the body itself. The body is a magnificent instrument, a universe of intelligence waiting to be understood. You are not a machine that needs constant repair. You are nature itself, self-healing, self-regulating, self-aware. The problem is that we have forgotten how to speak the body's language. We try to fix everything with pills and noise when what the body asks for is presence. The breath is how we listen. The cold is how we remember. I remember one expedition in the mountains of Poland. Snow all around, a silence so deep it could swallow sound itself. Sigh. I stood barefoot in that snow and felt the wind like a knife across my skin. The body trembled, but I smiled, because that trembling was energy, movement, life. I began to breathe, deep and rhythmic, and the trembling stopped. Warmth rose from within me like fire from the earth. I realized then that the cold was not the enemy. It was my mirror showing me where I resisted life. The more I relaxed into the cold, the more power I felt. The more I fought it, the more I suffered. That day, I learned that pain is not punishment, it is a signal asking for attention. When you push past your perceived limits, something incredible happens. The body, once your cage, becomes your gateway. You begin to see that every wall you thought existed, fear, exhaustion, weakness, was only painted on glass. One breath, one step through, and it shatters. The cold taught me that I could hold my breath for minutes, that I could raise my body temperature without fire, that I could run until my feet bled and still smile. Not because I am special, but because I surrendered to what is real. We are built to adapt. Evolution has wired us to survive extremes. It is comfort that weakens us, not nature. When I train people, I see it happen again and again. They come thinking they cannot. Their eyes say, "This is crazy, Wim." And then, after a few breaths, a few moments in the ice, something ancient wakes up inside them. They stop shaking. Their faces change. They breathe slower. The fire returns. They realize they are strong. That awakening changes everything. Once you know what your body is capable of, you start to question every other limitation. If I can control my heartbeat and my temperature, can I also control my emotions? My stress, my pain, the answer is yes. And not just control, you can transform them. You can turn anxiety into excitement, weakness into power, pain into growth. It's not a metaphor, it's physiology. Once I was invited to run scientific experiments. They injected me with an endotoxin, a substance that should cause fever, vomiting, and inflammation. The scientists were curious, maybe skeptical. They said, "Wim, this will make you sick." I smiled and said, "We will see." I sat down, began my breathing, focused my mind. 30 minutes passed. No fever, no sickness. They checked my blood. My immune system had responded instantly, releasing adrenaline, blocking the inflammation. They said, "This is impossible." I said, "No, it's human." Later, people I trained did the same thing. Not just me, all of them. Feel it. Breathe. You will find warmth on the other side. When I take people into the ice, I don't tell them, you will conquer it. I tell them, you will become one with it, because mastery is not resistance. It is harmony. That's the beauty of nature. It doesn't compete, it cooperates. You learn to cooperate with your body, with your mind, with the elements, and everything flows. There's a story I love about one of my students. He was terrified of cold water, shaking before even touching it. But he trusted me. He went in, breathing, focusing. After 30 seconds, he smiled. After a minute, he began laughing. When he came out, he said, I feel like I just met myself. That's what happens when you break a limit. You meet the part of you that was always waiting beyond it. The financial world works the same way. People freeze at the thought of risk, of failure. But if you breathe through that fear, you discover new possibilities. Courage in one area translates to courage everywhere. The same chemistry that helps you stay calm in an ice bath helps you stay calm in crisis. That's why this practice is not about ice. It's about life. I have always believed that freedom begins inside. You cannot be free if you are enslaved by your thoughts or your emotions. Freedom is the ability to choose peace even in chaos. It's knowing that your mind is your home and you can make it warm no matter the weather. That is real wealth. When I work with scientists, they often ask, Wim, where does this power come from? I tell them it comes from love, love for life, love for nature, love for humanity. Love is the strongest force there is. When you go into the cold with love instead of fear, the body responds differently. The chemistry changes. The heart opens. You realize the cold is not attacking you. It's embracing you. That love, that openness, that connection, that's what makes you strong. Strength is not stiffness. It's flexibility. When you can bend without breaking, you become unshakable. So when you push the body, do it not to punish but to discover. Every time you go beyond what you thought was possible, you expand the definition of who you are. You realize you are not the story, not the fear, not the limitation. You are the awareness behind it all. You are life itself, breathing through form. Sometimes when I am in the mountains, standing in the snow with the wind howling, I close my eyes and feel everything. The cold, the heartbeat, the silence. I think this is what it means to be alive. No distractions, no noise, just raw existence. And in that space there is peace. So if you want to know what you are made of, go to your edge. Go to the place where the mind says no and stay there. Breathe. Don't fight. Feel. That's where transformation begins. That's where the ice becomes the teacher and the breath becomes prayer. We were made to adapt, to heal, to thrive. You don't need to seek miracles. They are already happening inside you with every breath. All you need to do is wake up to them. This is what it means to break the limits of the body and discover the soul in the cold. Because once you know that your body is your ally and not your prison, you stop being afraid of life. You start living it completely. And when you live completely, everything changes. Next, we will dive even deeper into the energy behind the breath, the power of intention, and the connection between mind, spirit, and matter. The journey continues, my friends. Fully in, let go. And remember, the power is within you. Do you feel that pulse? That steady rhythm inside you? It is not random. It is the drumbeat of the universe playing through your chest. That pulse has been there since before you could think, before you could speak. And tonight, I want you to feel what that really means. You are not separate from the world. You are the world expressing itself through a human body. This is how I've achieved everything people call impossible. When I say I will run a marathon in the desert without water, it's not arrogance. It's alignment. I feel it first. I see it. I breathe it. I become it. By the time I do it, the energy has already prepared the body. That's the secret. Action is the final expression of energy, not the beginning. The same applies to finances, relationships, dreams. When your energy is scattered, nothing grows. When your energy is focused, everything flourishes. The world doesn't reward effort, it rewards coherence. The person who breathes calmly in chaos, who acts from clarity, who holds a strong vision and feels it deeply, that person bends reality. I once met a young man in one of my workshops who told me he had no purpose. He said he worked a job he hated, felt lost, uninspired. I told him to breathe and stop searching for purpose in thought. I said, a purpose is not found, it's felt. After a few rounds of breathing, he opened his eyes and said, I feel electricity in my chest. I told him, that's life saying yes. He went home, quit his job, started teaching breathwork, and now helps others find their fire. Intention doesn't begin in the brain, it begins in the body. Your breath is your bridge between the invisible and the visible. With each inhale, you take in life force. With each exhale, you release limitation. If you breathe consciously, you are constantly renewing your energy. Most people don't breathe fully. They take half breaths and live half lives. I say a fully in, let go. That's not just breathing, it's a philosophy. Fully in means embracing life, opportunities, relationships, and challenges. Let go means trusting the process, releasing control, allowing things to flow. Between those two, you find freedom. When you combine breath with clear intention, you can influence not only your body, but the world around you. Quantum physics now shows that observation affects reality. I didn't need physics to tell me. I've lived it. When you hold love in your heart, the world responds. When you walk into a room full of people and you are coherent, calm, open, loving, the energy changes. People feel it even if they don't know why. That is power, not power over others, but power to uplift others. Energy is contagious. If you are anxious, you spread anxiety. If you are calm, you spread calm. That's why self-mastery is an act of service. When you breathe and ground yourself, you become a lighthouse for others. You don't even need to speak. Your presence does the work. I've been in front of thousands of people, and when we breathe together, something magical happens. You can feel the collective heart beating as one. People cry, laugh, shake, release decades of pain in minutes. That is not hypnosis or placebo. That is energy alignment. When human beings breathe and feel together, they remember what unity feels like. That's why I believe the breath is the medicine of the future. It's free, it's powerful, it's available to everyone. People sometimes say, Wim, you make it sound spiritual. And I say, of course, because the spirit is just energy in its purest form. Spirit means breath. Look at the word itself. In Latin, spiritus means breath. So when you breathe consciously, you are communing with your spirit. That's not religion. That's physiology and poetry at the same time. When I train people, I tell them, do not seek energy outside. Stop thinking more coffee, more stimulation, more consumption will bring life. The most powerful source is already inside you. The sun rises within your own chest every time you breathe deeply. You just have to notice it. In the cold, energy and intention become one. You cannot fake your focus there. You either believe or you freeze. You either relax or you suffer. Malaya. That's why cold training is the fastest way to test your connection with energy. When you can stay calm in freezing water, when you can feel warmth arising from within, you know your energy obeys your intention. And if it obeys in the ice, it will obey anywhere. Energy also responds to gratitude. Gratitude is the amplifier of intention. When you thank your body, your breath, your life, even before results appear, you open the door for abundance. I do this every morning. I sit, breathe, and say, thank you for this body, for this breath, for this life. Instantly, energy rises. Gratitude tunes you to the frequency of receiving. It tells the universe, I am ready. There is one moment I will never forget. I was meditating by a frozen waterfall. The air was crisp, the water thundered beside me. I sat in my shorts, eyes closed, breathing deeply. Suddenly, I felt my heartbeat synchronize with the rhythm of the falling water. My body temperature rose, my mind disappeared. I felt like I was the waterfall, not metaphorically, literally. My edges dissolved. I was water moving, breathing, alive. That moment changed me forever. I realized that intention can dissolve separation. You are not a guest in this world. You are the world remembering itself through awareness. When you live like this, energy becomes joy. You stop needing reasons to feel good. You are good because you are alive. That's freedom. So many people spend their lives chasing energy through money, recognition, or consumption. But energy doesn't come from having more. It comes from aligning what you already have. Breath, body, mind, emotion, purpose. Align those and you become a force of nature. Misalign them and you become tired no matter how much you gain. When I think about financial freedom, I see it as energetic freedom. Money is a symbol of flow. If your energy is blocked by fear, doubt, or guilt, money reflects that. If your energy flows with confidence, gratitude, and service, money reflects that too. You don't need to chase. You need to align. Wealth is a side effect of energy coherence. That's why I teach people to breathe before they act. Don't rush decisions. Don't let stress guide you. Inhale until you feel calm, then move. A calm mind creates efficient action. A stressed mind creates mistakes. The breath is your best business partner. Sometimes when I'm teaching, I look at people and see lights around them. Yes, energy fields, call it what you like. You can feel when someone's energy is open or closed. Open energy is magnetic. Closed energy repels life. Breath opens. Fear closes. The cold teaches you to stay open even when everything in you wants to close. That's the art of living fully. Every cell in your body is like a small battery vibrating with intention. When you think negative, you lower the charge. When you breathe love, you raise it. That's why joy is not luxury, it's maintenance. Laugh, dance, breathe, play, these are not distractions from life. They are the fuel of life. In the end, energy is simple. It's not something to study, it's something to feel. The more you feel, the more you heal. The more you breathe, the more you live. Fully in, let go. Fully in, let go. Fully in, let go. That's the rhythm of existence. He breathes deeply. The audience follows. The room hums with the sound of hundreds of lungs moving as one. Do you feel that? That is connection. That is life communicating through all of us at once. You see, the power was never lost. It was just waiting for your attention. Bring your intention to your breath to your heart to your life, and everything begins to change. I have seen miracles not because I am special, but because I finally stopped doubting the power of life itself. You can do the same. You can direct your energy, shape your reality, influence your health, and live as the creator you were born to be. Breathe now, my friend. Fully in, let go. The energy is you. The intention is you. The miracle is you. This is the secret of energy and intention, the art of influencing life itself. The next step is learning how to live from that place every day in love and work and movement. The next step is flow. Fully in, let go. The journey continues. You know that feeling when you are completely present, when time disappears and everything flows effortlessly? Wait, that is the state where life moves through you instead of you pushing against it. I call it flow. It is the place where mind, body, and spirit dance as one, where fear cannot reach you and doubt loses its voice. Flow is not something mystical. It is our natural state. We are born in it, but we forget as we grow older and fill our minds with noise. The secret is remembering. You don't chase flow, you allow it. When I am in the ice, running in the mountains, or even standing on this stage, I don't think about performing or proving. I breathe. I feel. I let the energy move through me. That's flow. It is pure presence, the space where everything unnecessary falls away. You don't feel pain. You feel power. You don't feel fear. You feel freedom. In that space, you realize how simple life actually is. The mind complicates, but the body knows. The body knows how to heal, how to adapt, how to move. All you have to do is get out of the way. We have been taught to control everything, to plan, to analyze, to predict. But control is not freedom. Control is fear dressed as logic. Flow comes when you trust. Trust the body, trust the breath, trust life. It doesn't mean giving up responsibility. It means aligning with the intelligence that is already within you. The river doesn't push itself to the ocean. It simply flows because gravity guides it. You are the same. When you remember your nature, you move effortlessly toward your destiny. I learned this in the mountains, far from everything. The snow, the wind, the silence, these are my teachers. One day, I was climbing and a blizzard came suddenly. The temperature dropped, visibility vanished, and I could feel the cold biting deep into my skin. For a moment, fear appeared. What if I freeze? What if I get lost? But then I closed my eyes and breathed. Fully in, let go. Fully in, let go. Slowly, the fear disappeared. I began to move again, not with panic, but with peace. My body found its rhythm, my steps found their path. I reached the top just as the clouds broke open and sunlight spilled over the white landscape. I didn't conquer the mountain, I flowed with it. Oh, that's life. When you stop fighting life, life starts moving for you. That's true in the ice, and love, and money, and everything. People think success is a fight, but success is alignment. It's when your thoughts, actions, and emotions move in the same direction. That is power. When you breathe with intention and live with trust, everything you need begins to appear. You attract people, opportunities, ideas, because you radiate coherence. Most people live trapped in tension. They hold their breath without knowing it. Their shoulders tight, jaws clenched, stomachs tight. That tension blocks flow. Breath is the antidote. Every exhale is an act of surrender. Every inhale is an act of receiving. When you breathe deeply and rhythmically, you open the gates. The energy that was trapped begins to move. You feel warmth, tingling, lightness. That's flow returning to the system. It's not magic. It's biology working as designed. I once worked with a soldier who had returned from war. He had nightmares, panic attacks, couldn't sleep. He told me he felt broken. I said, "You're not broken, you are disconnected." We breathed together. The first few rounds he resisted. His body shook, tears came, but he kept breathing. Then suddenly, silence. His eyes softened. After the session, he said, "I feel peace for the first time in years." That is the power of flow, It washes away the static of trauma. It gives you back to yourself. Flow is also freedom. Freedom from fear, from ego, from the need to prove. Real freedom is not doing whatever you want. It is wanting what you do. It is moving through life with purpose and joy instead of stress and control. You stop chasing and start expressing. You realize that nothing external can give you what you already are. The cold showed me this again and again. It stripped away the noise until only truth remained. I didn't need comfort, I needed connection. I didn't need luxury, I needed life. When you are in flow, you live in gratitude. Gratitude is not a concept, it's a vibration. It's an energy that opens doors. Every morning I breathe and say thank you. To the breath, to my body, to the cold, to the chance to live another day. That simple act creates abundance. Gratitude is wealth. When you are grateful, your energy expands and life reflects. You begin to notice opportunities where before you saw problems. You begin to see miracles where before you saw coincidences. That's how financial freedom truly begins. Not with money, but with mindset. Money itself is energy. If you chase it with fear, it runs. If you generate it with purpose, it flows. When you are in flow, you don't hoard, you circulate. Giving and receiving become the same thing. That's why I always tell people, give what you want more of. If you want more love, give love. If you want more energy, give energy. If you want more wealth, give value. The law of nature is reciprocity. The sun gives light and the earth gives life. Everything flows because everything serves. When I teach people to step into ice-cold water, I watch the transformation happen in real time. At first, they are afraid. They shake, they scream. But then they breathe, they surrender, the fear dissolves, the body adapts, and suddenly they are laughing. That laughter is freedom. It is the sound of someone realizing, I was never the victim, I am the creator. That's what the cold teaches. Power is not found in running away from discomfort, but in running into it with open arms. The same principle applies to everything in life. You cannot grow if you always seek warmth. You cannot expand if you always seek ease. The body becomes strong only through resistance. The mind becomes resilient only through challenge. So don't curse the cold moments of life. The heartbreaks, the failures, the disappointments. They are your ice baths for the soul. If you breathe through them, they will purify you. If you fight them, they will consume you. Once, during a training in the Arctic, I spent almost 2 hours in ice water while scientists observed. They expected my core temperature to drop dangerously, but it didn't. It stayed stable. They were astonished. They asked, "How is this possible?" I said, "Because I am in flow. My blood vessels open and close in harmony. My heart beats calmly. My mind is silent. The body and I are one." That's not control, that's communication. The body knows what to do. It always has. You just have to listen. Flow also means forgiveness. When you hold resentment, you block energy. Forgiveness is not about excusing what happened. It's about freeing yourself from its weight. The same way you let go of breath, you let go of anger. Letting go is not weakness, it is the ultimate strength. The strong person is not the one who never falls. It's the one who always releases and rises again. When you forgive yourself, you make room for creation. You stop replaying old stories and start writing new ones. That is how transformation happens, not through effort, but through openness. The breath teaches this every time. Inhale fully, release completely. Each breath is death and rebirth. That's flow. That's freedom. People ask me, Wim, do you ever get scared? Of course I do. Fear never disappears. It's part of life, but I have learned to breathe with it. When fear comes, I welcome it like an old friend. I say, "Hello, what are you here to teach me?" And then I listen. Fear becomes fuel. Every time you face it consciously, it loses power. The cold is the same. It is always there, but now I love it. That's what happens when you befriend discomfort. You become unshakable. I want you to understand that freedom is not the absence of challenge. It is the mastery of response. You cannot control the weather, the economy, or the actions of others. But you can always control your breath, your focus, your attitude. That's real control, the kind that leads to peace. Once you master that, you can walk through chaos with a smile. The path to flow begins with small steps. Start with your breath, then face the cold, then face your fears. Each time you do, your world expands. What once seemed impossible becomes natural. And when you live like that long enough, you realize there are no limits, only thresholds waiting for your courage. I once watched a man who had suffered from depression for years step into the ice for the first time. His face twisted with pain, but he kept breathing. After 1 minute, his expression softened. After 2, he started to smile. When he came out, he shouted, "I'm alive!" It wasn't about the ice. It was about remembering that he still had choice. Choice is freedom. You always have it, even in darkness. Life is simple when you see it through the breath. Fully in, let go. Action and surrender, giving and receiving, strength and softness. It's all one rhythm. The more you align with that rhythm, the more effortless life becomes. You don't force results, you attract them. You don't chase peace, you embody it. Sometimes in my trainings, people ask a Wim, "What's the end goal?" I tell them, there is no end. The goal is to live so deeply that every breath is a celebration. That's flow. That's what it means to be alive without boundaries. When you reach that state, you realize freedom is not out there. It's not in fame or money or achievement. It's in this breath, this moment, this awareness. Freedom is feeling at home wherever you are because you are connected to everything. He breathes slowly, eyes closed. The room is silent except for the sound of collective breathing. Do you feel that? That stillness inside you? That's flow. That's freedom. That's who you really are beneath all the noise. You don't need to become anyone else. You just need to remember. So breathe with me now. Fully in. Let go. Feel how simple it is. That's life. The universe is breathing through you. You're not separate from it. You are it. Every time you return to that awareness, you become limitless. You become the Iceman, not because of cold, but because of clarity, courage, and connection. This is the art of living limitlessly, of flowing with life instead of against it. And it leads us to the final step, purpose. Because once you have flow, you must direct it. Freedom becomes most powerful when it serves something greater. That is where the journey leads next, to meaning, to service, to awakening the spirit through love. Fully in, let go. We continue together. Do you feel that stillness inside you? That soft vibration that happens after the breath, when everything is quiet and yet somehow more alive than ever? That is you. Not the story, not the struggle, not the name or the body, but the consciousness underneath it all. The cold has stripped you down to it. The breath has brought you home to it. This is the place where purpose begins. Because when you meet yourself in silence, you finally see what you are meant to give to the world. Purpose is not something you chase. It's something you remember. When I was young, I thought purpose had to be grand. I thought it had to look like success, like records, like proving something to others. But when you stand alone in freezing mountains or under the ice, you realize the truth. Purpose is not outside. It is within. It is in the heartbeat that never stops, the breath that never quits, the spark that refuses to die no matter how cold life gets. Purpose is the part of you that says, "I'm still here, I still love, I still believe." After my wife passed away, I lost that purpose. I lost the light. I was drowning in pain, and for a time I didn't want to live. But one morning the cold water called me again. I went in, trembling, numb, broken, and the water said nothing. It just held me. It didn't fix me. It didn't fix me. It showed me that life continues. That even in death, love remains. The cold didn't save me from grief. It saved me from forgetting that I was still alive. And that's when I understood. My purpose is to share that aliveness, to remind others that no matter how lost they feel, the breath is always there, waiting to bring them home. When I teach now, I don't talk about being superhuman. I talk about being fully human. That means feeling everything. The joy, the pain, the love, the loss, and still saying yes to life. That's what the breath teaches. Every inhale says yes. Every exhale says thank you. That's the rhythm of existence, the rhythm of purpose. Purpose is not a job, not a goal, not a dream. It's a way of being. It's how you show up to every moment. You could be a teacher, a farmer, a parent, an artist. If you breathe consciously, move with love, and live with awareness, you are fulfilling your purpose. Because purpose is presence. I have met people who have nothing, no possessions, no wealth, and they are rich in joy because they are alive in their purpose. They breathe deeply, love deeply, give freely. That's abundance. Financial freedom, too, begins with that mindset. You are not poor when you lack money. You are poor when you lack energy, vision, or gratitude. And you are not rich when your bank account is full. You are rich when your heart is full. But when you live with purpose, money begins to flow because the universe rewards alignment. People feel your authenticity and they are drawn to it. Energy translates into opportunity. When you live to serve, you attract abundance naturally. That is the paradox of purpose. When you stop chasing for yourself and start giving from yourself, everything you wanted begins to find you. I remember once after a talk, a young woman came to me crying. She said, "Wim, I don't know what my purpose is. I feel lost." I told her, "Then make your purpose to love life again." She looked confused. I said, breathe, look at the sky, feel your heart, and say thank you. A few months later, she wrote me a letter saying she had started volunteering at a shelter, and every day she woke up excited. That's purpose. It's not always grand, but it's always alive. The cold teaches you service. When you go into the ice, you must surrender. You must stop thinking of yourself as separate. The ice doesn't care who you are. It treats everyone equally. When you learn to respect that, you learn humility. You learn that life is not about conquering. It's about connecting. The same breath that fills your lungs fills every other living being. When you breathe consciously, you are in communion with the world. You are part of something vast, something sacred. Love is the highest expression of that awareness. Love is not weakness, it's strength in its purest form. Love is the power that allows you to face the cold, to face fear, to face pain, and still stay open. When I hold my breath and feel the cold on my skin, I am not fighting it. I am loving it. Because love and fear cannot exist together. Choose love and fear dissolves. Choose fear and love hides. That's how simple it is. I tell people, live like the heart you carry beats for everyone, not just yourself. When you do that, energy multiplies. Your breath becomes bigger, your joy deeper, your strength limitless. That's why service is not sacrifice, it's expansion. The more you give, the more you receive. That's how life works, a circular breath of giving and receiving in and out, over and over, forever. Purpose gives direction to freedom. Without purpose, freedom becomes escape. With purpose, freedom becomes creation. You don't just run from pain, you build beauty from it. You don't just survive, you serve. Every challenge becomes fuel for compassion. Every scar becomes light for someone else lost in the dark. That's what I've learned through the cold. It doesn't make you hard, it makes you kind. I have seen people with tears streaming down their faces in ice baths, shaking, screaming, laughing, being reborn. And afterwards they look at me and say, "I feel love." Not just love for others, love for themselves. Because once you meet yourself in the raw silence of the cold, you can never again pretend you are small. You know now, you've seen it, you've felt your power, you've felt your heart, you've felt God, life, whatever name you give to that energy. And you know that love is not out there somewhere. It is the current running through everything. Sometimes I think about the early humans, walking barefoot, breathing deeply, living with the elements. They didn't call it meditation. They called it living. They didn't need therapy. They had nature. They didn't seek purpose. They embodied it. The sun rose. They moved. They worked. They loved. They rested. They knew instinctively that every breath was sacred. I believe that memory still lives inside us. We just have to awaken it. That's why I teach what I teach, not to add something new, but to help you remember something old. When you live with purpose, every breath becomes prayer. You don't need temples or rituals. The breath itself is worship. The cold water is baptism. The heartbeat is mantra. When you realize that, you see that the divine is not above or below. It is here in every cell, in every inhale, in every drop of water, in every spark of life. That's why I always say we are capable of so much more than we think, because we are part of everything that is. If you want to live a meaningful life, stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. The perfect moment is now. You don't need to climb mountains or swim under ice to awaken. Just breathe deeply, be present, and act from love. If you can do that in your home, in your work, in your relationships, you are already the Iceman, because you are living awake. The world needs people who are awake. The world needs people who live with passion, who choose service over comfort, who radiate calm in the chaos. When you breathe consciously, when you live with purpose, you become that person. You become a lighthouse for others still lost in the storm. You don't need to preach. Your presence does the work. Sometimes in the quiet moments after teaching, I sit alone and listen to the breath of the world, wind, the waves, the heartbeat in my own chest, and I think, this is it. This is life. Not tomorrow, not someday. Now, and in that now, everything makes sense. All the records, all the pain, all the journeys, they were just ways to get here to this realization. That to live fully is to love fully. So when you wake up tomorrow, before you reach for your phone, before you step into the noise, take one deep breath. Feel it fill you. Whisper thank you. And remember that everything you need to live with purpose is already inside you. The breath is the bridge. The cold is the teacher. The heart is the guide. The rest will follow. Breathe deeply, live simply, give generously. That's the formula. It works in health, in wealth, in love, in everything. When you live like that, fear loses its grip. You stop being a victim of life and become a participant in it. You stop chasing freedom and start embodying it. You stop surviving and start living. That is what I wish for you. Not just to be strong, not just to be healthy, but to be awake. Wide awake, breathing, alive, connected. The world changes when people wake up like that. Families heal. Communities grow. The planet breathes easier. That is my mission. That is the mission of the Iceman. Not to impress, but to awaken. Come deeds, not to conquer nature, but to remind humanity that we are nature. He closes his eyes and breathes in deeply, holds it, then exhales slowly. The hall is completely still. Fully in, let go. Fully in, let go. Do you feel it? That's life. That's you. That's love. You don't have to believe in miracles. You are one. And when you live with purpose, when you serve with love, when you breathe with awareness, you become the miracle this world has been waiting for. He opens his eyes, voice rising gently like sunlight breaking through clouds. This is the end of the journey and the beginning of another. You have learned to breathe, to feel, to face the cold, to master your mind, to move energy, to live and flow. Now it's time to share it. Go home and bring this energy into your world. Be kind, be bold, be real, inspire by example. When someone looks at you and says, "How are you so calm, so alive, live?" Smile and tell them, "I breathe." That's how it spreads. One breath, one heart, one human at a time. He spreads his arms wide, eyes shining. Fully in, let go and live. Live with purpose. Live with courage. Live with love. Because life, this precious, wild, beautiful life, is waiting for you to say yes. And when you do, everything changes.